So if any of you guys grew up in a Guyanese household, you will know what Pera is. Pera is basically a type of fudge where you take milk and sugar and you boil it down until you get a very thick paste. After that's done, you roll them into balls or these flattened shapes as I've made here. Now, in today's video, I am not making any type of Pera. I'm going to be making some coconut ginger Pera. That's right, for all of you coconut lovers, here's another amazing dessert recipe for you. Now, usually when I went to those Hindu religious prayer services growing up, I always looked forward to those brown paper bags at the end filled with all of the wonderful sweets. And the one thing I looked forward to the most was Pera. So if you want to see the traditional recipe, I'll have it linked right up here in the right hand corner. But if you want to see this updated version with a little twist, go ahead and keep on watching. So for this recipe, what you're going to need to do is take a can of evaporated milk and pour it into your heavy bottom pot. And then what you want to do is turn the heat on to your pot on a medium to medium low heat. Now once you've poured that milk into the pan, you're going to want to go ahead and save that can because it is the vessel where we are going to measure the sugar. That's right, the old school traditional way of making Pera is to go ahead and use equal amounts of the milk and sugar. That's what's going to give us that nice candy texture and sugary texture in the end. So I'm using granulated sugar today because that's all I have on hand, but if you have brown sugar, you can use that as well. So once you turn on that heat and you measure out your sugar, you're going to go ahead and add it into your pot. Now again, it is equal amounts of milk and sugar. You are more than welcome to go ahead and use less sugar. However, just know that the Pera will not hold together the same way. It'll be more of a stretchy texture. And when you pour that sugar in, you're going to want to go ahead and scrape the can because remember we had wet milk in there, so some of the sugar will stick to the can. Now once you've added in all the sugar, you want to go ahead and stir it really well so that sugar can dissolve into the milk. And at this point you want to keep it on a medium heat so this way it can come up to a rolling boil. Once you've stirred in all of that sugar and you dissolve it really well, you're going to go ahead and pour in a little bit of vanilla extract or vanilla essence. Now if you wanted to, you could play around with the different flavorings. You can add in some almond essence, you could use mixed essence, or any other type of extracts that you have in your kitchen. You can totally make it as per your taste and your preferences. Now you're going to go ahead and stir this around and you're going to allow it to come up to a rolling boil. So my milk mixture has come up to a rolling boil, and what I'm going to do now is I'm going to lower it down to a medium-low heat. The reason why you want to lower it down is because you want this mixture to simmer really well so this way it can thicken up into a very thick paste. You don't want to do this on a medium to medium high heat because if you do, it will start to stick or burn at the bottom. And trust me, no matter how many times you think it will not happen, I promise you it will happen. Just the combination of that milk and sugar causes it to scald or burn at the bottom very quick. So go ahead, take a seat, and lower down the heat and you'll be here for just a little while. So my mixture here has been simmering for about 14 minutes at this point, and as you guys can see, it has gotten a little bit darker and it has also gotten thicker. Now if you want your Pera to be much darker than this, you're going to want to go ahead and use the Demerara brown sugar. Now after you've gone ahead and allowed it to cook for that 14 minutes or until it gets this thick, you're going to go ahead and add in some chopped coconut. Now I am using the one that came in the bag from the store that's already pre-shredded. I just went ahead and I chopped it up a little finer, but if you wanted to, you could use some freshly grated coconut in here as well. Basically, you're going to stir up this coconut into the mixture and you're going to allow it to cook just a little longer until it gets a little thicker. Once your coconut is added in, you're going to go ahead and add in some freshly grated ginger. If you don't have fresh ginger, you could use the powdered version, and if you don't want any ginger in this recipe, of course you can omit it. Now you can play around with so many other spices. I know some people put nutmeg, cinnamon, or cardamom or lychee in their Pera or their fudge, so you can go ahead and play with it as per your own taste and preferences. Now the time that it takes to make this Pera is going to vary for everybody, just depending on the type of milk you use, the type of sugar you use, as well as your climate around you. Now my Pera, once I let it come up to a rolling boil, I lowered it to a medium to medium low heat and I allowed it to cook for exactly 16 minutes. And after that time of simmering, I got this thick texture as you see here. Now once you go ahead and take your spoon and drag it through the middle of the mixture, you want it to form somewhat of a little bit of a dry patch, and then you want that mixture to slowly come back together. That's one of the indications that you know you have the perfect texture ready to make the Pera. So at this point, I'm going to turn off my stove, and I'm going to go ahead and transfer this off of the stove so I can show you what to do next. So I've gone ahead and I've taken the Pera mixture off of the stove, and now I'm beating it vigorously with my spoon. I recommend doing this with a wooden spoon or one of those plastic silicone spoons. The reason being is because I find the metal spoon is very hard to hold in your hand as you're beating this, and it might hurt your hand. So just be careful and use something that's the most comfortable for you. So you want to keep on beating this for about 15 minutes or basically until the mixture starts to dry up and it is no longer wet. Trust me, you might think that the Pera will never come together or never dry out. You just have to keep on beating. And honestly, depending on your Pera mixture, it might take longer than 15 minutes or less time than 15 minutes. It totally depends. Alright guys, this is one of the most exciting parts of making Pera because we are so much closer to getting those little round balls ready to eat. So as you guys can see, it has dried up really well. Around the sides of the pot, you see that it's crystallized a little bit and it's almost forming one uniform mass in the pot, and that's exactly what you want. Trust me, once you think that the Pera is not coming together, just keep beating and I promise you it will be perfect in the end. Now once you've beaten your Pera mixture really well, you're going to go ahead and create a little station to roll them into balls. You want to have your pot with your Pera mixture to one side, another plate or a tray to put your Peras in, and you also want to have a little bit of water or some butter or some ghee, so this way you can not have the mixture stick to your fingers that much. Now what I'm basically doing is I'm taking about a teaspoon to 2 teaspoons of that mixture and I'm going ahead and I'm spreading it in between my palms and I'm rolling it really well until I get a smooth texture. And once I roll it really well, I'm going to press it down just a little bit so this way I can get a flattened shape. You're more than welcome to roll these into balls, but I like to roll them into these flattened shapes just because I find that they dry out a little better. And of course you can make them much bigger if you wanted to as well. Now at any point, if the mixture in the pot starts to dry up a little bit too much, what you're going to want to do is take a little bit of water and just dab it over the top and it'll loosen the mixture out a little bit more, so this way you can continue to roll them into balls. Now this is a stage where I recommend you either have somebody help you do it or you work really fast. This took me about 5 minutes to do and it didn't dry out on me, but if you're a very slow person in the kitchen, you definitely want a little bit of help, so this way your Pera mixture does not dry out. Okay guys, and just like that, we have our Pera all done. Now if you didn't want to go through this whole process of rolling them out into individual sized balls, you can go ahead and spread it into a greased tray and you can spread it out really thin, smoothen it on the top, allow it to cool or dry out a little bit, and then you can cut it into squares. Whatever way you do it, they are going to taste perfect and you're truly going to enjoy these. So if you enjoyed this video, go ahead and give it a nice big thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel if you are not subscribed yet, and go ahead and leave all of your wonderful comments down below. I want to hear from you guys. If you made this recipe, let me know if you enjoyed it or not. And again, I hope you all are staying home and staying safe. I'm thinking about each and every one of you, and I'll see you guys again in my next video.